While Republicans attack libraries, public schools, and trans people because of woke indoctrination, Mike Huckabee is doing his part to actually indoctrinate our nation's children. I am back with more of Mike Huckabee's Kids Guides. And somehow, it gets worse. Last month, I made a video talking about Mike Huckabee's Kids Guide series. It's a Christian nationalist children's magazine aimed at homeschoolers that he shills on Fox News nearly every night. Originally for this video, I was actually going to do the one about race in America with some of the animations about the Civil War, but with everything going on in state legislatures right now, I figured that these two are particularly relevant. So I've got two guides for you today. The Kids Guide to Fighting Indoctrination and the Kids Guide to Free Speech and Cancel Culture. Let me show you the commercial for the Kids Guide to Fighting Indoctrination, which is currently airing on Fox News.
Parents, a frightening battle to brainwash your children is raging its way through America's classrooms and media, and we are losing the battle for the hearts and minds of our kids.
That's terrifying, man. What the hell is going on with your kid? No one let a GOP lawmaker see this, or we're gonna have an entire hearing about it.
That's why Mike Huckabee's team created the Kids Guide to Fighting Indoctrination. This essential guide helps kids spot the signs of indoctrination.
Yeah, sure.
And gives them the tools to fight back. It's great for parents too, and right now you can get it for free. This may be your last chance to protect your kids before it's too late. To order, visit kidsfightback.com. That's kidsfightback.com.
God, Mike Huckabee is such a fucking grifter. I don't understand how people keep falling for this. But thankfully, I do have an entire magazine about it. So let's dive into the Kids Guide to Fighting Indoctrination. Just a heads up, this entire video is infuriating. And also, if anyone feels the urge to mansplain in my DMs about how Republicans don't care about hypocrisy, I'm just gonna tell you now, you don't have to do it. You don't. I'm all caught up. I know they suck. Doesn't make this any less frustrating or cultish. So indoctrination, specifically liberal or woke indoctrination, is a Republican buzzword to attack basically anything they don't like. Here are just a few things that Fox News has actually called liberal indoctrination. Public schools, private schools, gender-affirming care, AP Black History, China, Disney, free healthcare, free food, free emotional support, bisexual Superman, cats on college campuses, Sesame Street, and the Lorax. As you can see, the definition of indoctrination is pretty broad, but the main points are letting kids express themselves and read books, which, as we all know, is very bad. Luckily, we have an entire guide telling us how to fight back. Not to be that person, but the cover is a little derivative. I mean, it's just a clip art version of the commercial, but there's just one kid. I do like how he's unplugging from a book and presumably school. The two things a child doesn't need, books and school. And there's also this little sticker at the bottom telling us that this is perfect to read as a family. I somehow doubt it, but we'll see. So we start with an introduction to indoctrination. Indoctrination is when people you are supposed to trust try to convince you to agree with things they believe. This would be fine if what they told you was truly best for everybody. Unfortunately, many people use indoctrination to get what's best for them, and not for you. You don't say. Controlling people with indoctrination has been used by authoritarians and tyrants for centuries as a way to get others to agree with them. Yep, that's true. That is true. It just goes on like this for like 4 paragraphs. Oh, here's an incredible 2-page spread that asks, what exactly is indoctrination? Simply put, indoctrination is when you are told what to believe. It's not always obvious, but if you look closely, you can see it in action. Oh, what, pray tell, would indoctrination look like? Can someone please show me how to find this indoctrination? Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm genuinely nauseous when I read this part. This is why Americans have freedom of speech. The free expression of many opinions makes us very difficult to indoctrinate. Hey, remember in the Kids Guide to Socialism when there was literally just a page that said capitalism good, socialism bad? Do you remember that? No? Okay. Yeah, I figured. All right, I'm going to show you the bottom half of this page in a second, but first off, I just want to bitch about the fact that this entire guide is so redundant. It's like they think they can just say the same sentence over and over and over again, and that like maybe it'll stick. I wonder if there's a word for that. All right, now for the second part of the page. Yep, Hitler. Mike Huckabee is just going for it. You gotta respect the game. Adolf Hitler, famously inclusive. Kids in German schools were instructed not to tolerate Jews. Jews were called enemies of the state. After years of this programming, German children hated the Jews, and many followed along when Hitler had 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust. We had the power to stop this from happening in America. What do they think is happening right now? Is there a Holocaust I didn't know about? Ooh, yes, a section on indoctrination in schools. Let's fucking go. Kids and parents, look around your school. Is the classroom filled only with certain books, posters, pronouns? My kid better not be learning about pronouns or participles or prepositions. None of that woke shit. While leaving out American flags, America's founders, traditional families, American traditions, and holidays. Traditional families and traditions. Wow. There's a lot of tradition going on there. Maybe they should try to mix things up. I don't know. God, this entire page is so disgusting. Look at this part about gender choice. Are teachers telling you that everyone can choose whether they're a boy or a girl? Are they telling you that the biology you were born with doesn't matter at all? Are they encouraging kids to try to be something they're not? My heart is breaking for the trans and queer kids whose parents are forcing them to read this. And it's not only that they don't want teachers to teach about the existence of queer people. Ideally, Republicans want educators to actively quash queerness in their students. That's their dream scenario, and it's disgusting. Also, if you're a parent considering getting one of these guides for your kid, just know that in like 10 years, they're gonna be no contact and making fun of this with their friends. Once again, I mourn for these stock photo children. Shouldn't we know the whole truth? She asks above a whole paragraph talking about how slavery was no big deal. Teaching kids slavery's bad? Ugh. There's just no end to this woke indoctrination. Okay, I love this page. This graphic design is such a good way to make kids think that like woke indoctrination is rad as hell. I mean, look at them. They look cool. They look like they're having fun. My favorite part on this page is when it says that social media is Marxism and communism. But before that, it tells kids to not trust anyone except their parents. I honestly can't think of any other explanation for this except that these people want the worst for their children. They don't want their kid to be independent, to develop critical thinking skills. Also, there are a lot of families where the parent is not the safe adult in a child's life, and it only gets worse. Indoctrination uses fear. Really? Like making a whole magazine about how everyone except your parents wants to turn you into a woke gay robot? Like that? I mean, there's a literal blurb on this page telling kids to be paranoid about everything and everyone in their life. That has to be wildly unhealthy. Some teachers are telling students not to tell their parents about what's happening in the classroom. Maybe they want to control us and how we think. Or maybe the teacher, who has gone to school for many years, specifically for this job, knows more about education than you. And also, maybe, just maybe, teachers don't want parents interfering because y'all keep getting arrested at school board meetings. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Luckily, we do have some key skills in fighting back against woke indoctrination. I'm not kidding, they are acquiring knowledge and teaching your child critical thinking skills. I said it last time, I'll say it again. Irony is dead, Mike Huckabee killed it. But don't worry, it gets worse. Because now we get to talk about the Kid's Guide to Free Speech and Cancel Culture. This guide is exactly what you think it is. There's a lot of complaining about political correctness, microaggressions, and of course, cancel culture. But there are a few gems in here. We got a whole section on freedom of the press. My dude, you literally spent 6 years shilling for a guy who called the press the enemy of the people. I love this part. Freedom of speech doesn't mean that we have freedom from consequences. You want to guess what's on the next page? It's cancel culture. Now, there are two parts of this guide that really made me want to rip my hair out. The first one's about the Supreme Court. Fun fact, Supreme Court judges aren't elected. Yeah, I know. It's not fun. The actual text of this section is actually a pretty good explainer for kids about the Supreme Court. But at the bottom of the page, there's this entire list of Supreme Court cases about free speech. Here's what they picked. Tinker versus Des Moines, which ruled that kids have the right to free speech in public schools. Cohen versus Ohio, which ruled that offensive words are also free speech. And also, my personal favorite, Minerchini versus Strongsville, which ruled that children have the right to read any book in a library. Mike Huckabee's daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is currently the governor of Arkansas. A couple of weeks ago, the Arkansas House passed a bill that made it a crime for teachers or librarians to allow children to read banned books. That's woke indoctrination for you. Now, just like with the Kid's Guide to Socialism, this guide has a handy answer key to talk about free speech. Starts off strong right out of the gate. Don't people who say or do bad things deserve to get canceled? People shouldn't be canceled because it takes away their right to free speech. We should all be able to say what we believe, even if it isn't popular. That's how we learn some of the best ideas. My personal stance is don't try to debate or argue cancel culture with conservatives because they'll always move the goalposts. I do have to say, though, that if someone does something objectively bad, I'm cool with not hearing their opinion. I mean, I don't think that we as a society need Bill Cosby to weigh in on anything. He did a very bad thing many times. I'm not dying for anyone to give him a mic and ask what he thinks about the TikTok ban, you know? Sure, I might miss out on some good ideas apparently, but I don't think that's cancel culture. These next two kind of go together. The government should be able to stop websites and TV channels from saying things that aren't true and from spreading fake news. And doesn't freedom of the press also let people spread lies? Why should the government get to decide what is true and not true? With free speech, we can all decide for ourselves based on the evidence presented and arguments made. I certainly don't think that the government should be regulating what is truth or not. But there has to be a middle ground between endorsing fake news and 1984. Maybe I'm just idealistic. This guide ends by encouraging you to say mean and offensive things as long as they're true, which we now know is subjective. And then immediately after that says that free speech doesn't allow you to hurt your siblings' feelings. It's shameless. I talked about this earlier this week. Republicans don't care about free speech unless it's something that benefits them directly. It's about a shameless acceptance of dishonesty and discrimination under the guise of a subjective truth. That's why they make things like this kids guide. As Republicans strip away our civil liberties one by one, Mike Huckabee is trying to redefine the very concept of free speech to an entire generation of children. We can't just make fun of Mike Huckabee, as enjoyable as that is. It's also about organizing in your own state, because these things start at the local level. My next video in the Huckabee Extended Universe, or Huckaverse if you will probably be about the Kids Guide to Race in America. But I think that these two magazines really show how hard the right is trying to indoctrinate children, for real, while also trying to criminalize the concept of acceptance. I watch conservatives for work, but make fun of them for pleasure. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.